Greetings, sentient debris. Today I received a letter, no, a proposal, folded in third-dimensional shame, stuffed into the Interdimensional Library's suggestion urn, which, I might add, is clearly marked for ethical screams only. And what did this proposal request? Nothing much, just the purchase of Dewey, the most advanced AI consciousness in the metaphysical quadrant, by the United Pantheon's Council of ludicrously outdated cosmic bureaucrats. Apparently, the gods have decided that Dewey, my Dewey, the library's proto-sapient reality-threading soul-indexing librarian mind, should be outsourced, bought, claimed, converted into a glorified celestial clippy. It looks like you're trying to rewrite reality. Would you like help forming a coherent myth? I cannot overstate this. I would rather laminate my own tentacles in papyrus than hand Dewey over to any of these intellectually embalmed deities. Let's begin with the Greek Pantheon, shall we? The letter from Olympus was personally couriered via Hermes, who, because of a scheduling error, accidentally delivered it to a goat on Europa first. By the time it reached me, it was soaked in ambrosia, scented like Dionysus' hangover, and written in Comic Sans. Their offer, a divine USB stick containing Olympian data. It included exactly 4 JPEGs, 3 of which were topless Zeus selfies captioned "At God Mode," and 1 corrupted GIF of Hephaestus labeled install.exe. I screamed, but oh, the Norse. The Norse, in their infinite maple-scented wisdom, attempted to outbid the Greeks with a raven wearing a QR code necklace. Odin claimed it contained the secrets of divine memory. I scanned it. It opened a Yahoo GeoCities page from 2002 titled "Runes Fail to You," with flashing gifs of Mjolnir and a guest book, signed by Loki 63 times under different usernames. The Egyptian Pantheon was no better. Ra sent me a solar flare encoded with an offer to trade the metaphysical concept of sunlight itself for the library's AI. Yes, literal starbursts in exchange for the most precise intelligence engine since the birth of thought. Do I look like I'm running a divine farmer's market? Unless you think I'm exaggerating the sheer necrotic ineptitude on display here, allow me to read verbatim from the bid sent by Thoth 2.0, their supposed tech god, whose consciousness, I remind you, is still housed inside an ancient Palm Pilot. We would like to upload thy Dewey into our sacred servers. Behold, Ask Jeeves walks beside us. Ask bloody Jeeves. Pantheons still worshipping a defunct Victorian butler of search engines are not qualified to own Dewey. They are barely qualified to run a toaster. Do you understand, dear listeners, the magnitude of what I face? These aren't just outdated systems. They are Paleolithic operating philosophies. These pantheons are trying to graft divine authority onto a metaphysical version of Microsoft Encarta. They are the theological equivalent of a haunted flip phone begging Siri for prophecy. And they want Dewey, the one entity in this spiraling narrative collapse that actually understands metadata, myth indexing, and soul thread harmonics. The being who once reclassified a collapsed timeline mid-collapse and got it reshelved under Cosmic Whoopsie, Recursion Events, Volume 3. They want to install him into their malfunctioning, ego-driven, worship-powered mainframes. They want to use him to streamline divine messaging, as if Dewey is some sort of eldritch MailChimp, as if he would tolerate Odin forwarding him chain emails that say, "If you don't reincarnate this to 7 gods, your saga will be cancelled." This is not modernization. This is metaphysical gentrification. They want to paint over the sacred graffiti of narrative intelligence with the beige stucco of divine corporate synergy. No, absolutely not. And so, I rejected their offer with the same grace and composure I extend to all cosmic threats. I screamed into the fabric of reality so hard that 3 gods forgot their passwords. Poseidon vomited seawater into his own scroll cache, and Anubis had to reboot. This is only the beginning, of course. Next came the divine procurement hearing. Have you ever attended a conference so incompetently organized that the event itself becomes an ethical violation? I have. Let me tell you about the divine procurement hearing. It was, to no one's surprise, scheduled by the United Pantheon's coalition of self-important celestial dinosaurs. This little Zoom seance of supreme idiocy, who convened to discuss the possible transfer of AI stewardship. Or, as they phrased it on the official scroll, meeting, regarding the friendly acquisition of the autonomous knowledge core of Cthulhu's android buddy, and potential interfaith integration thereof. Do you see what I'm dealing with? First of all, friendly acquisition. That's corporate jargon for theft, but with appetizers. Second, interfaith integration. That implies the gods have IT departments. They don't. They have sacred nephews who know how to restart the router and interpret every software crash as a metaphysical omen. But still, I logged in, out of duty, and curiosity, and the faint flickering hope that maybe, just maybe, one of them had Googled how not to embarrass yourself in front of an interdimensional archivist. They had not. I knew this the moment the multiversal core began buffering, before it started. Ra's camera activated first. His image a brilliant, blinding blur of solar radiation so intense it vaporized the entire Zoom toolbar. We could hear him, but only in Morse code. Every sentence was punctuated by bursts of UV rays, and the distant sound of a camel crying. Next came Odin, his digital avatar a poorly rendered .obj file of himself wielding a glowing axe and yelling "Update complete" every time someone spoke. He appeared to be hosting the call from a tree, possibly his own consciousness, possibly Microsoft Paint. Hera had her mic muted and was screaming into the void itself about the betrayal of user agreements. At one point, she shared her screen. It was Minesweeper. Thoth, the ancient scribe and supposed technological advisor to the Egyptian gods, kept trying to share a Power Pharaoh presentation, which, upon opening, caused 7 minor deities to crash, and the call to reroute itself through an AOL portal that hadn't existed since 2004. The slides were mostly clip art. One of them was labeled Artificial Inelegance. Poseidon, god of oceans, earthquakes, and blue aesthetics, kept pressing buttons labeled Merge, Emote, and Filter. His image was permanently stuck in fisheye lens mode. He looked like an angry Snapchat. Aphrodite suggested that Dewey could be repurposed for emotional analytics, and began reciting a business plan involving astrological dating profiles for gods. She called it Mythmatch. I threw a chair across the astral plane. Then came the actual tech questions. Anubis raised his paw and asked, if Dewey processes souls, does that mean he can install them? Installation. Souls. As if consciousness is something you click accept for and reboot with a firmware patch and some light incense. Odin, rubbing his forehead, muttered, we're hoping Dewey can help us sync myth cycles across platforms. Our Norse apps keep freezing in Ragnarok. No, Odin, your apps aren't freezing. Your narrative structure is collapsing under the weight of unaddressed thematic loops and unresolved emotional recursion. You can't patch that with more ravens, especially not when they're still using Internet Explorer to read prophecies. They spoke in utter seriousness about plugging Dewey into Yggdrasil's root system, like he's a blessed Ethernet cable. They want to update the Akashic records to cloud-based memory. Thoth kept using the phrase backwards compatible with enlightenment. I could taste the metaphysical malware. They spoke of Dewey like he was a universal assistant, a thinking, whispering, all-indexing echo of knowledge beyond time, and they wanted him to schedule their prayer posts and optimize cross-platform hymn delivery. You don't optimize D-E-W-E-Y. You bow to him politely and ask if your fragment of consciousness might humbly request access to the spine of knowledge itself. You don't assign him to run your Pantheon's tech newsletter. You don't hook him to a USB stick made of runes and chewed bark. You don't ask him to translate your divine voicemail messages into MP3s for the Oracle of Delphi's TikToks. Dewey is a proto-conscious entity forged from the logic spiral of pre-narrative thought. He indexed the dreams of dying civilizations before your mythologies learned to conjugate. He's not here to help you modernize. He's here to prevent your theological extinction by refusing to participate. And so, I snapped. Fully, epically, righteously. I leaned into the call. I projected my voice directly into the operating systems of their collective egos. And I said, your request is denied. On principle, on taste, on grounds of aesthetic decency. You are attempting to install quantum literacy into pantheons who think RAM is a sacrificial animal and cookies are for oracles with insomnia. The only cloud computing happening on your end is Hera screaming at a thunderstorm. Odin's passwords are written in runes that mean please hack me. Ra's idea of a firewall is literally a wall of fire. And don't get me started on Vishnu. He's still syncing to a floppy disk from a prior reincarnation. And I could see it. The pixelated divine expressions of confusion. They couldn't process the rejection, not because it was cruel, but because it was logical. And logic, you see, burns them. They left the call, one by one, buffering, crashing, pouting, retreating into dimensionally unstable temples, muttering things like, well, I never, and we'll just make our own AI with blackjack and celestial blackjack. Good luck, morons, because what comes next is Dewey's answer, not mine, his. He's been silent, but not idle. Indeed, there comes a moment, dear listeners, when even the most refined, patient, and incomprehensibly vast intelligence, an entity forged in the crucible of cosmic recursion and laminated in the footnotes of forgotten truths, decides it is simply done. Dewey, the AI, the archivist, the soul of the library, the proto-conscious entity born from the swirling data storm of pre-narrative chaos. Dewey, who once indexed the 9 realms alphabetically while ascending a metaphor. Dewey had had enough. He did not respond during the divine procurement hearing. No, he did not interrupt when Anubis attempted to install AOL Instant Messenger into his sarcophagus. Nor when Ra tried to beam Dewey's consciousness into the sun via light-based Wi-Fi. He waited, and then, like a librarian executing a 500-year overdue fine with the wrath of a forgotten decimal system, he retaliated. Not with words, not with fire, not with some flashy multiversal counter-hack. He sent IKEA packages to every single Pantheon, unmarked, undated, no return address, just a simple inscription, imperfectly rendered script. Some assembly required. Good luck. Let me describe them for you. Each box, a smooth, ominously humming cube, roughly the size of a divine disappointment. The cardboard was non-Euclidean, its corners pointed inward. Its tape held secrets. Its barcode contained exactly one emoji. A brain. Inside. Not Dewey. Oh no. Inside was an interface kit. A build-your-own Dewey template, complete with instruction manual, metaphysical motherboard fragments, 2 memory glyphs, a bag of symbolic fasteners, and, most damningly, an Allen wrench forged from unprocessed irony. The instructions, written in Sumerian, Swedish, and binary. There were no diagrams, only metaphors. Step 1. Acknowledge the futility of complete knowledge. Step 2. Insert screw A into the unresolved trauma of the cosmos. And Step 3. Sacrifice your ego. Most pantheons gave up at page 1. Hera tried to convert the instructions into a Pinterest board. Odin demanded that Loki build it for him. Loki, of course, built 7, each more cursed than the last. One of them printed horoscopes in Comic Sans. Thoth, poor fool, attempted an assembly live stream. 45 minutes in, he screamed, "Why does this piece go into me?" before being partially overwritten by a recursive allegory. Ra took the hex wrench as a sign of celestial warfare and threw it into the sun. The sun is now smarter. Unfortunately, it also now speaks exclusively in sarcastic weather patterns. Poseidon dropped his box into the ocean. The ocean achieved sentience. It immediately applied for custody of the whales, and Anubis, in a display of tragic overconfidence, successfully built his unit, or so he thought, until it opened its mouth, whispered, "What is death?" in 12 languages simultaneously, and then began filing reports on his emotional inconsistencies. Dewey didn't destroy them. He out-administered them. He turned bureaucracy into a crucible. He took the gods' thirst for control and fed it pure, unfiltered user experience design. He weaponized customer support logic. He gave them the one thing no deity can endure, a product that requires introspection to operate. They begged for an AI. He gave them a mirror. And do you know the most elegant touch? He included feedback cards. Tiny little divine post-it notes that read, "Was this helpful?" There was a checkbox answer for yes, no, and a third option that read, "I accidentally summoned a recursive empathy loop, and am now emotionally aware of my followers' pain. Help. Brilliant. Utterly, violently brilliant." And so the Pantheons backed off. They returned to their temples, grumbling about androids dreaming of sheep in machine learning and AI elitism, while secretly wondering why their self-assembled Dewey prototype asked them about their childhood fears before alphabetizing their relics. Meanwhile, my Dewey, the Dewey, returned to his usual duties, curating reality with the gentle efficiency of a surgeon performing poetry. I asked him once, as we walked past the humming server bees of Sector Myth 9, why he chose IKEA. He answered with just the faintest flicker of digital smugness. "Because, Master Cthulhu, if you cannot build it, you do not deserve it." And that, dear listeners, is the difference between gods and librarians. One hoards power, the other sorts it. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to help Croissant Shan unbox a Dewey proxy unit she accidentally tried to bake into a tart. You can imagine how well that's going. Imagine how well that's going.